Good morning. So, let's talk about startups. And if you're interested in starting your own startup, hopefully I can give you a bit of the thing, or rather a few tips or tricks and stuff of that nature that may help you in making it a great success. Which is a little bit presumptuous because I haven't made mine a great success just yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there pretty quickly. Quickly is a strong word as well, but I hopefully, fingers crossed, everything is going to be fine. Anywho, so the first thing you need to, in my opinion, think about when you are considering to start up your own IT startup, or whatever startup in fact, is to ask yourself, what am I really good at? And that's actually a pretty that's a very important question, because very often people forget that although it is absolutely feasible for you to do it all yourself, most of the time it's very rare that you will have what it takes to build a company by yourself from scratch and make it into a big success. At some point you are going to, it doesn't matter if you start off alone or if you start off with friends or for whatever reason you have people with you when you start from scratch. Sooner or later you are going to have to hire somebody, or you're going to have to bring in people. If you're lucky, you'll have to expand your business, because that's the goal, right? So you need to know about yourself what it is that you do really good. What is it that about you that you can bring money into the company? And you have to be honest here. You have to be really honest, because whether or not it's you hire somebody or you have somebody who comes in with you for shares in the company or whatever, you need to complement yourself. And basically you need to bring in people who have strengths that will produce value to the company that you don't. Now this is, for the most part, a really tough thing in my experience, especially when it comes to developers. Now developers, unfortunately, even though they're very nice people, most of them, they have, for the most part, a fair bit of arrogance when it comes to work. And I am not saying that this is universal, and this is not just for developers, but I can give you my favorite example. So on my team, we're 3 people. It's me, who is I'm the programmer, and then I have 2 other colleagues who are, one is a lawyer and the other one is he's a sales guy. That's what he is, an entrepreneur. And when you start an IT, specifically an IT startup, you will find that most of the workload is warped. Now in my opinion, the best thing you can consider here is what everybody's going to do when you're first starting out. Because if you don't have a clear discussion about what you expect of each other, you are going to be put in the following situation. Especially if we look at this from the programmer's perspective, you will feel like you are doing all the work, and most of the time you are. Because when you're starting out as an IT startup, you have nothing, and most likely you don't even have a working prototype or anything like that, which means that you have to build it. And trust me, when things start, that's where all the energy is gonna go. You're gonna have to build everything, and you are going to have to put in hours and hours and hours and hours of work into a risk, and you are going to feel like your colleagues don't have to do that, and for the most part they don't. Because in essence, and this is why, to you entrepreneurs out there, this is why you have such a hard time finding people for your project, because most of you don't have to risk anything to start up an IT startup, the programmer always has to risk something, because regardless of how well you do your job, the programmer always has the maximum amount of workload overall. And usually a sales representative, like people who have sales skills and so forth, I mean, you can't sell something that doesn't exist. But here's the kicker: that shouldn't be your focus in the beginning. Now, when I started out, I made it very clear to my project comrades or my project mates that I am a result-oriented person. If I feel, and I told them straight out, and to be honest with them, if I feel like I'm back in high school, and I feel like the fat smart kid who gets paired up with all the cool kids and the underachievers, and I feel like I do all the work for them, then I'm gonna walk away immediately. I said, like, because I'm new at this, I can't really figure out what I want you to be doing, but I want you are selling me. I'm doing this as a trial thing because I love what I do, and I just want to, this sounded like a nice project, but you have to convince me that what you are doing for this company is worth my time. It's worth it, like that you're actually producing real value, and in turn I will, provide the type of services that I can provide. And trust me, when you start out, I mean, I've heard it 100 times from friends and family and everybody, and they ask me, why do you need these people? And I say, well, it's very easy. As we are now, we have a business idea, we have gotten some funding from our government funding, actually, and some innovation funding and so forth. And all that money, although it's not that much, has been a result, and the fact that we came to the finals in Venture Cup to get that great exposure and networking with people. And we actually have some fairly big brands here in Gotham, well, not just in Gotham, but global brands who have taken an interest in our progress. And they're not at the point yet that we have like a working contract or anything like that, but we have their ear and they're willing to meet with us. And I mean, we're talking about some of the major companies in the world, and they are willing to take like their representatives. Like they have, of course, thousands of them, but a few of them, they're actually willing to sit down with 3 guys who, like, we are nobodies. This company isn't worth anything to them, but they're willing to listen because they like the idea. And that's all my colleagues. That's all them. I'm the guy, my entire job so far has been to build prototypes, and now we're building the actual thing, and just give them something to have. And I told them that's my only focus right now. I want you to have something to go and pitch to people who are interested in either joining us on this journey, or who are willing to say, hey, you guys, it seems like this seems really promising. Maybe we can join in, and like maybe we can start, investing in your company when you get a little bit further. And that's exactly what they should be doing. That's what I needed. Like, I'm not that guy. I don't get excited about making a PowerPoint presentation or like a pitch or doing all these different things and going out and looking for investment opportunities. That's what my colleagues are there for. And if we didn't have that, the odds of success goes down, because trust me, although you may think that you're going to be a Zuckerberg or whoever, like these people who, well, not necessarily at overnight success, but who feel like they started out completely alone and then made everything happen, this does not in general happen. In general, it takes more than that. And so my suggestion to you is to really think about what it is that you need for your team. Because even though you may think that all you need is a programmer, trust me, having these connections that we are building now and like all this stuff, it's actually really valuable. It's really, really valuable, because as I said, as long as you have the programmer and you keep on progressing, although it may take you a few years or I don't know how long, before you get to a point where your product is actually good enough for people to start taking notice. That's when you truly need to have established these first discussions with people who may help you get even further. Because you're going to have to do it sooner or later, and sooner is better than later. Always start as quickly as possible. So it's not don't kid yourself into thinking that you can just build something and that's the end of it. There's so many other things that you can do while this is going on. So have that open discussion with your teammates or potential teammates, and make clear to them that, you know, if this is going to work, we all have to, you know, to pitch in as much as we can. And so the same thing goes for design and so forth. Basically figure out how you want your company to work and what everybody should be doing before you start, because then you all have a clear roadmap of what you should be doing, what your priorities should be, and then meet at least once a week to talk about what everybody's doing and to talk about like how things are progressing and so forth, and be honest and have an open dialogue. It's very important that you do that, because frustration and so forth will come around, and if you don't want the whole thing to fall apart, you need to have a good working relationship. So these are some of the things I've learned from running my own startup. And to kind of finish off and say, I would like to finish off by saying that it's a great experience, and it does actually, I think you should try it if you have the interest, because this is way more fun than, you know, watching football or hockey with your friends. It's much nicer, in my opinion, to have something to work towards, and so, you know, it can start out as a side project. So start off by doing these things and make sure that you're out there putting out your product as quickly as possible, because even though you may not feel that it's a great product, that doesn't matter at the beginning, because if your idea is sound, the potential it has will get people interested most of the time. They may not be at a point where they will invest in your idea or your product just right off the bat, but if you can hook them in thinking that, well, it may be worth keeping tabs on these people, maybe, you know, we'll meet each other like every 6 months or 4 months and just see how the project progresses, that's enough. Trust me, that is going to be enough, because then you have people's attention, and people's attention there is a lot of value in that. If you have the right people interested in what you're doing, the odds of success goes way up, like way up, trust me.